So I love seeing that, right? The agent has admitted that this property is a fixer-upper. This is exactly what we're looking for. This is what we want to go after. Literally in 1 minute, you could have pulled this up and found a distressed house, a distressed lead that you could call. I'm going to cover how to find actual houses that you can flip. We need to find houses that are in a distressed condition, and that will typically lead to finding sellers in a distressed situation. And let me define both of these. A distressed condition is a house that maybe has holes in the roof, overgrown shrubbery, maybe a house that has been never updated, meaning it's stuck in the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s. It has old, faulty electrical wiring. Maybe the foundation is tilted. You put a marble on the floor, it goes from one end to the other, right? There's fixing that needs to go into this property. And what's great about a property in a distressed condition is that a normal home buyer can't buy this property. It needs to be purchased for all cash. And that's because a bank, which a normal home buyer leverages to buy a property and get a loan from, that bank won't lend on this property because it's too risky. Us as fix and flippers, we're willing to take on this risk because we can turn this into a profit. So we look for properties in a distressed condition. These are going to be the best deals for us as fix and flippers. Now we're also looking for sellers in a distressed situation. Now distressed conditions, pretty easy to spot. When I show you how to find these deals, we can just look at the photos of the property and we can see with our eyes that it's in a distressed condition. Also, the description of the property that a real estate agent types in, they may say that this property needs a lot of work. They may admit that this is a fixer-upper, so we know that. Now, from calling and talking to the real estate agent, that's typically how we discover if the seller's in a distressed situation. The real estate agent's typically not going to say, hey, this seller is going through a divorce in the description, right? That wouldn't be too nice to share that personal information in the public domain. But if you call the real estate agent and you ask, what's the seller's reason for selling? Then they may tell you. Other distressed situations can be that the seller needs to sell quickly because they just lost their job and they have to move to a new state for a new job, for more affordable housing. There could be litigation going on, a lawsuit for one reason or another, and they have to sell this property in order to fund this lawsuit. There's 100 reasons why a seller can be in a distressed situation, and that's just a few of them. Now, how we find these deals, we love leveraging something called the MLS. The MLS stands for the Multiple Listing Service. This is a database created and maintained by real estate professionals, and it shows all of the listings on the market for sale by a real estate agent in this database. Now, there's not just one MLS, there's over 600 across the United States. But typically, in your particular area, there's one MLS, maybe two, maybe three, that show the properties in your county and surrounding counties. So we love leveraging the MLS. This is what we've been doing for 12 years as our main acquisition source. You can get access to this by partnering up with a real estate agent and also something called assistant access. In some states, you can get assistant access to the MLS and don't need to be licensed in order to get access. Now, what I'm going to show you today are a few websites you can use to find on-market properties. The best way to find these properties is using the MLS, but the next best way, if you don't have access to the MLS, is going to be redfin.com, Zillow, or realtor.com. And I'm going to share with you two strategies that I absolutely love to find these deals. Number one, it's called the day zero strategy. And what you want to do here, let's just say you're using redfin.com. I want you to go find all of the new listings in your particular area that are on the market in the last 24 areas. You can actually use the filtration mechanisms on here to find that. You can do the same thing on the MLS, but I'll use Redfin in this example. And if Redfin isn't in your market, then use Zillow or Realtor. Now, what we want to do, if there's 50 new properties that are listed today, I want you to go through those properties and check mark the ones that look like they're in a distressed condition. And you find that out by looking at the photos of the property. Do we see the overgrown shrubbery? Do we see the cabinetry that's all messed up? Do we see the floor that is ripped up? Do we see the mold on the wall, right? So out of those 50 properties that are listed, I want you to understand there might only be 5 or 10 that are actually distressed that we're going to want to call on. We've been able to get deals under contract the same day because we were one of the first ones to call on the property. So speed is the name of the game here. When we find a new property that's distressed, that's on the market, we then want to call that property as soon as possible. We want to be the first person to call on this property, the first investor, because many times you can call this real estate agent, you can talk about the property, they can tell you if you're willing to come in at $150,000, you can lock this up today. So those conversations do happen from time to time, and this is why we love the day zero strategy. Now keep in mind, I'm not telling you to call on the beautiful renovated properties that don't need any fixing up, right? Because I know if I don't say that, people are going to call on a property that already has the quartz countertops, already has the Viking appliances that doesn't need any fixing up. We're not looking at the 40 out of 50 that are already renovated that are going to go to a normal home buyer. We're looking for the 10 properties that are distressed with the day zero strategy. So that's our number one strategy. Number two, what I want to cover is the old listings strategy. And these are properties that can be 60, 90, even 120 plus days old. If a property hasn't sold in this amount of time frame, that means that the property was either listed too high of a price and now the seller is willing to sell it at a lower price, or there was a problem going on with the property, maybe litigation, maybe a pending lawsuit, and now time can kill all deals or time can save all deals. If enough time has gone on, maybe that problem's been solved, or if you talk to the real estate agent and there's some sort of problem going on, you could be that solutions provider on a particular property, right? Maybe this homeowner needs help moving out of their property, and maybe this homeowner needs a buyer that's willing to lease back, rent back the property to them for 90 days so they could use that time to pack up everything that they need and find a new property to move into. So if there's a particular problem going on, which is typically the case of old listings are 60, 90, 120 days old, and this is a distressed property and the seller's in a distressed situation, then it's another great way to be able to find these distressed houses that you can then fix and flip. Now we're going to dive into Redfin.com. So on Redfin.com, you want to go here, and then what you want to do is type in your actual county name. And I don't want to look in just one city. I want to look at the whole county because there's buyers buying in the whole entire county. And typically when you're just looking at one city, it's too small of a pool, right? So we like to look in the whole county. So go search Riverside County. Beautiful. And now we're there. And we need to adjust the filters at this particular point in time because I'm not looking for all the houses on the market, right? I'm not looking for the beautiful $2 million home that doesn't need renovation. We're looking for fixer uppers. So what we want to do is first go to home type right here, go to house, because we're only looking for houses, right? We're selling houses. For sale, you can click on this. Just make sure that coming soon and active is marked. That's what you want. And now for filters, what we want to do in filters is go down here and select fixer upper. So once we have fixer upper, it's now showing all the active and coming soon properties that are fixer uppers on Redfin. And that's what we want. So Redfin has an algorithm that's going to say like, hey, this property is a fixer upper. It has the verbiage that shows it's a fixer upper. It has the photos that look like it's a fixer upper. And the agent that's listing this property may have also listed and said that this property is a fixer upper. So now that we have these leads actually on the screen, you can see the whole entire county is pulled up. What I like to do on this particular strategy is first sort from newest to oldest. So what I've done here is now the newest properties that are up on here are going to be showing at the top. And speed's part of the name of the game here. Speed, we want to be one of the first ones to call on these particular agents. So you can literally go click on this property, and now we have a profile of this property. You can go look at the photos, and I'm looking to see, is it distressed? And if I look at the outside of this photo, it may be old, and this is something that is worthy of a call potentially if it's distressed inside. And what I like to do is also look at the description. This is the description that the agent has made on this particular property. And if it says things like needs TLC, diamond in the rough, that's what I like to see. Or handyman special, or hey, perfect for a fix and flip. There's 94 homes that Redfin lists as a fixer upper. Call them all, but sort through the hottest ones first, the ones that look the most distressed. So if we look at these photos of these properties, we can go through here. Okay, here's one right now. Beautiful. If I go look at this particular property, what I want you to see is this property is obviously in a distressed condition. There's no freaking flooring. The cabinets are all old. When we go over here, there may be cracks in this slab, but it's just kind of a dirty property, cracked tile as of right here. And here are outdated bathrooms that could absolutely be updated to current market trends. Landscaping is not too bad, kind of normal for a deserty area, but this is something that I absolutely like to look at. This is a property that I can see is in distress. So now we can go look at this actual description that we have here, and it says North La Quinta home is ready for a makeover. Here's, you know, from doing this for so long, for doing this now for over 12 years, with TLC, it promises a substantial return on investment. So the agent is admitting that this is a potential investment. And TLC means tender loving care. So agents like to put that in there when it needs some work. And that's what we're looking for, properties that need work. So I love seeing that, right? The agent has admitted that this property is a fixer upper. This is exactly what we're looking for. This is what we want to go after. Literally in 1 minute, you could have pulled this up and found a distressed house, a distressed lead that you could call on. All right, so this property is relatively new on the market. It's actually 4 days on Redfin, 4 days on the market right here. And As you can see, there's 96 other properties. So you can just do exactly what I did to find these distressed properties. And then for the next step, what we want to do is call the agents in charge of the deal. Now, the great thing about the MLS, the contact information of the agent's going to be there. The email for that agent is going to be there. The email and phone number for the brokerage office is going to be there. If we're using something like Redfin, Zillow, or Realtor, sometimes the contact information, meaning the phone number, is on there. If not, usually the listing agent's name is on there. And then you just Google that listing agent's name and find their contact information online. Now, the most important thing to understand about these calls, these are not cold calls. All right, I am not cold calling someone who does not want to be contacted. I consider these calls warm and hot phone calls. Now, why is that? Why are these warm and hot phone calls? Because listing agents only make money when they sell a property. When you submit an offer to them and they close on the property, that's when they make money. So guess what? They want to pick up random phone calls. They want investors to call them if this is an investment property. They want offers on their properties. Let's say you're using the day zero strategy and it's 8 a.m. in the morning and you filtered the 50 properties. You now have a list of 10 and you're going to start calling on the hottest property that you have. We want to call the real estate agent to accomplish a few things. We want to ask questions like, is the property actually still active? So sometimes we'll see an active property, but guess what? Someone beat us to the punch and now it's pending or contingent, meaning someone else put it under contract. So we can't put a property under contract if it's already under contract. So is it still active? Number two, do the online photos of the property match the actual condition? Are those photos outdated or are they up to date? And then what is the actual current condition of the property? I love asking the real estate agent this because guess what? If the property is distressed and then they're describing the distressed situation the property is in, they're now admitting that this is a distressed property. So when I go send my cash offer to them, the purchase price that I want, it makes sense. It's an investor offer because the property is distressed. Plus the agent's in charge of the deal. They know the most about the deal. A lot of the times as an investor, I can understand the amount of repairs I need from the photos. I can understand the condition, but asking the agent's super important because they may know some additional things about the property that you don't see from the photos. Now, here's another very important thing we want to accomplish on this call. Is the agent willing and open to work with us? Meaning, are they open to represent our offer if we're an investor? If we're making an offer on this particular property, are they open to representing us as our buyer's agent? This is very important because a listing agent typically gets paid 2.5%, 3% commission from the seller, and a buyer's agent typically gets paid 2.5%, 3% from the seller as well. When we directly reach out to the listing agent unrepresented at this time, and we ask the listing agent to represent us, what you're effectively saying is, hey, do you want to make twice as much money if you accept my offer? It's pretty incentivizing. So you need to understand that when you ask them to represent you on this deal, they can make twice as much capital. And that's going to increase the likelihood of you being able to close this deal if they're open and willing to work with you. Now, something else we want to accomplish on this call. I love asking, what's the seller's reason for selling? Sometimes the real estate agent will tell you and sometimes they won't. But if I know that this seller needs to move in 17 days to Colorado because they lost their job and they have to move in 17 days and they need a cash offer because there's no regular offer that's going to close within 17 days, then I know this is not only a property in a distressed condition, but the seller's in a distressed situation as well. So what does that mean? That means we can get the lowest effective price possible when we're making an offer because the seller has motivation to sell. It's what we're looking for, the property in distressed condition and distressed situation. I call that a double whammy, and we see the highest likelihood of success when those two things are happening on a deal. An additional question I like to ask is, what's the competition like on the property? Meaning, what's the activity been like? How many calls and how many offers do you have? I like to assess the competition and understand where we need to come in at to make this property work. I always ask the agent that because the agent may say a price that I know is going to work for me. They may say way too high of a price, or they may say a low price that once again works for me. It's always good to ask these questions. These are the things that most people aren't willing to ask, whereas I am willing to ask these questions. My students at Wholesale and Flip Houses are willing to ask these questions. And when you get this information, when you get this data, it then allows you to make the best offer possible and increases your likelihood of success of closing these deals. So not only finding these deals, but being able to purchase them to fix and flip. So as we're talking with the real estate agent, we're seeing if they're open and willing to work with us. And it's about asking the right questions to get the right information. Now, once we've done that, we've asked those questions, we've discovered about the property, hence the discovery call. At this point in time, we don't need to just send out an offer or say a random purchase price to the agent. At this point in time, we're going to want to analyze the deal. Now that we understand that yes, this is an active property that's on the market. Yes, it is distressed. Yes, the seller's in a distressed situation. And yes, this agent wants to work with us. So after the initial discovery call, I always leave that initial conversation by saying, great, thank you for your time. I'm going to go back, meet with my team, analyze this property, and let you know exactly where we need to offer to make this property work. Does that sound good? Yes? All right, thank you. Talk to you soon. And what that allows me to do is, yes, we realize that this is a property that is worth pursuing now. I'm not going to analyze a property if I don't know that it's active, if I don't know that the agent's going to work with us, because I like to work smarter, not harder. And it's going to waste a lot of our time if we analyze every single property that comes across our plate. So we want to be effective and we want to be efficient, and this allows us to do that. But we have up to 9 strategies that we use effectively to be able to find, fix, and flip houses. If you're interested in leveraging our systems and tools and also our 12 years of experience, then be sure to check out our program, Pro Fix and Flipper. If you want to check that out and learn more about it, all you need to do is go to realestateskills.com/apply, and you'll be able to speak with one of my expert advisors on my team. And regardless if we decide to work together or not, we'll always leave you in a better place than where you came in. So we'll be sure to link you up with our free resources that we have and point you in the right direction, whichever way you want to go in your real estate journey.
Be on the lookout for the next video in this series. And if you want to build a hyper profitable wholesaling and flipping business, then check out my full in-depth training at realestateskills.com/watch. And I'll put the link in the description. I'll see you there, and happy flipping.